Hello, good afternoon
Hello.
again. So, shall we start now?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So, hello everyone. So, I hope that I am audible to all. So, in order to check that I am audible to everyone, you can say audible. So, good evening. So, I'm expecting a lot of yes in the comment. So, I'm audible, right? There is no any kind of background noise. So, everybody can see me and everybody can hear me. There is no any kind of issues. Then you can say yes. So good evening, Praveen Vlogs. So yes, good evening. So Angit said yes. So good evening. Yes, sir, you are visible or able to listen. Thank you. So good evening. So cool. Okay, we can start our session at 7:05. So I think everybody will come to the live on the time. So we can wait for 1 or 2 minutes to get everybody else. So, good evening, all. So I hope that yesterday's session was really useful to you, and you go to know about how the API is created and how the route is created, and we have learned the basics, how we can install the Express, all the basic stuff that we have learned yesterday, and some theoretical parts of backend, what backend is. So now we can learn something new and a little bit average level, not into a advanced level, but in an average level, we can learn about the middleware and the session cookies and how we can serve the static files in the front end. So now we have displayed a symbol text like a welcome or something. So now we can render a HTML page from the server. So we can do that. Yes. I hope that everybody is excited to learn new things. So yesterday we learned the backend of basic. Now we can learn something advanced. So I hope that you guys are excited to learn the new stuffs. So comment excited. Comment excited that if you want to learn. Hello, ma'am. Yes. Okay. So shall we continue from our last class? What we have learned. Really excited. So I'm also excited to teach you. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. So at that time I can teach you the continuation. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. Share it. So, is the screen visible to you? I hope that everybody can see my screen. Is the screen visible? Yes. Hello? Is the screen visible? If you can see my screen, then you can say yes. You can say yes if you can see my screen. So I cannot see no yes here in the command. Yes, yes. Okay, but you can see my screen well. Okay. So I'm keeping it side by side. So yesterday we wind up the session with this question, right? Because one guy, I'm not remembering his name, her name. Somebody asked me that why we are using this arrow. Why we are using this arrow? Someone asked me. So due to the power cut, I'm unable to continue the session. So now I am going to explain you. So this is a normal function where in which the function have a name, but this is same as the function itself. It is also a function which is called the arrow function. So one of the specialty of this arrow function is we don't want to write the name of the function. So it will it is a symbol to a symbol like a syntactic sugar. Which the syntax is something different here, but one of the main advantages, it will be mainly useful if you are using an anonymous function, a function without a function name. If the function have a function name, so here also this is also a function without a function name. So that is the main difference. So other difference is also there, especially in the case of this keyboard that we are using in the arrow functions, and the normal function is something different. So that we can discuss later. So now understand that this is a function, but the function have no name here, not a function name. But for that is why we are using this arrow operator. So it will mention as an arrow function. This kind of function is called arrow function. We hope that you understand. So now what we are going to learn is, so this is the function that we learned, get function. This is one kind of HTTP function, and the next function we are going to learn is the post function. So before that, I want to know that is there is how many of you know that how this route, I mean this API means this route is how this backend is connected with the front end, how the data from the front end is going to the server, and how the server is responding. So do you have a basic idea on it? Say yes if you have, or else you can say no. We can learn it right now. Hello. Hello, good evening. But I nobody is chatting, right? So why are you keeping silent? Yes, no, sir. Okay. So like that, you can say yes or no if you are not aware of. Okay. Now tell me yes or no. So no. Okay, we can learn that thing. Okay. So what I want to tell you that. So did you heard about that a tag in HTML? A tag in HTML. So I hope that everybody know about a tag in HTML. So in the a tag, we have one attribute called href. So here in the a tag, we have an attribute called href. So inside that, so we will pass something. Okay, inside that we will pass something. So like this. And that whatever the URL that we are passing here should be come to the URL part of our browser. So that URL is going to open, right? So suppose I am passing this about here in the URL. So this is something have to be invoked. So this route handler function will get executed. Okay. So suppose instead of about what I am using this contact. So this route is going to trigger and this route handler is going to execute. So this is how we are connecting the front end and the back end. So which API, which route have to be invoked, have to be written in the href attribute from the front end. Okay, I hope that you got the clear idea about it. So suppose when we are learning the back end, so most of the people will get confused that both of them are in the different files and the different folders and how they are connected to each other, how they will communicate to each other. Everybody have these questions. So I hope that you all cleared it, right? So good evening. Okay. So did you heard about the good evening? Okay. So did you heard about the HTML form? HTML form. Did you heard about HTML form? So this is something you are supposed to learn with the front end, but with the HTML form only we can pass some data to the backend. The backend is some code that need to be executed in order to give the user a result. So they need some data, right, in order to process in the backend. So those data we are getting to the backend. So with the help of the HTML form. Okay, HTML form. So I hope that you heard about the HTML form. So in the front end session or even you heard about the HTML form, right? If yes, you can say yes if you know about this form tag and all about this attribute and all. So if say yes if you aware of this form tag. Say if you yes you are aware of this form tag. So no Praveen vlogs. So you are supposed to learn about this form tag because the form means so when there will be a text box in the HTML in the web pages you have seen some text boxes, right? Some text boxes, some radio button, some field to type something. So all these are forms within a different styles. So with the form we are passing the data. Okay, so that is implementing with the help of this form tag. So whatever the data the form tag contain have to be passed to the backend, right? Okay, so for that purpose we have an action attribute within the form tag, and inside that we can pass a route. So okay, we are passing a URL here, passing a route here, and though this have to be implemented here. So at that time, these the route handler corresponding to this particular route will get executed. Okay, I hope that everybody can under. If you are facing any kind of issues, or if you are not understanding any stuff, please make sure that you are commenting here. So then only I can reply it as soon as possible. So, and also there is another one attribute called method, method method. So here we have to provide the value as post method. So we have learned about this get method, and today we are going to learn about the post method. Today we are going to learn about this post method. So post method, what post is a HTTP method. So what it is going to do is it is going to send the data from the front end to the back end. Okay, it is taking some data from the front end and it is passing it into the back end for processing. Okay, so inside the form tag, so there will be some input element. Okay, some text box will be there in order to type. Okay, so there will be the type as text. This is not a file to write the HTML code. That is why it is causing this kind of error. And name attribute will be there. We can pass the name or something if needed. Okay, and so that's all fine. There is no issue. It is closed. And so this is actually the basic of how we are passing the data to the backend. So I am going to comment this out because we don't need it, because we don't need this. So I'm going to comment this out. So I have written this code in order for the basic understanding of how we are getting the data to the backend. Okay, so I'm going to write about this post method. So we have to pass the URL route, that is adding form data. Okay, so whenever here is a type of there is a button called submit. So the type would be submit. So as you have seen this form anywhere, everywhere, submit button. This code is submit button. So whenever the submit button is clicked, our program will take the data. I mean this username data. So whatever the stuff that we have entered in this text box, also to this adding form data route. Okay, so this is how the data is going to this API. So I hope that you got that basic idea of how the data is going to the backend. So if you understand the topic really well, you can say yes. If you want me to repeat it again, you can command it as a repeat. I will repeat it once again if you are not understanding about it. Command yes if you understood. Do I want to repeat it? You can say repeat. I'm waiting for your reply. Yes or repeat. Yes. Repeat it, please. Okay. Okay, I'm repeating it once again. So, so when we are in a website, so especially I'm telling you that you are registering your profile in a social media. So where you will get a form to fill your username, password, date of birth, mobile number, or whatever stuff that they need. There will be a form. You have to type it out, right? Okay. So the data that you have typing in that particular form, that particular field, is going to the backend. So that is what we are discussing about. So the data that we are typing is through this front end HTML form. So these are the tags that is using to take the data from the input, and those data that is taken through this input is passing to the backend. Okay, so only when we click the submit button, okay, in which route this data have to be taken, which route have to be processed should be defined within the action attribute. So whatever the route that we are passing in the action attribute, the API will the control will take those data into this particular route. Okay. Okay, but understand that this route is something executing now. So I hope that you got that. So when we are in the coming session, you will get a clear idea about it. So so here also we have to pass the request and the response. So there is something called request dot body will be there. Request dot body. So inside this field, body, inside request dot body, request here. So body is another one keyword. So it contains the data. This is an object. This is an object which contains the data which is passed from the front end. So and we can take those data by providing the name. So name, age, whatever the data it is coming, we can specify the name here, and we can assign it into a variable name or something. You can specify it whatever else. So those data will be there, and so we got the data in this variable, and we can make use of good evening. Okay, and we can process with this data. So I hope that you got a basic idea about it, how we get the data into the backend. So we are how we are passing the data to the backend, that we have discussed by using the form tag. In order to get the data, so there is one property called body with the request attribute, request dot body. If we are using this request dot body, it will be we can see the data. Okay, hope that you cleared. So why are you using a variable? So why are you using a variable means, okay, here username is the name attribute. Okay, username is the name attribute. So this is a text box where we can type in the UI, HTML front end browser, we can type something. So whatever stuff that we are typing here should be come into this variable username. Okay, so when we are getting this data into this particular backend route, request comma response. So there is a property called body within a request dot. So what is the data that we needed? Username. Okay. So we got the data request dot body dot username variable of using for storing the layers. Yes. So we have to store this. We are taking a variable called name, and we are assigning the value of this field. Whatever the stuff that we have entered in this text box should be come here in the name, and we can console it, or we can store it in a database, or we can do anything that we want to do with this variable. So that is why, that is the purpose of this. Okay, hope that you clear the post method. So post method is something which, so we are sending a data to the backend and we are accessing it with the body attribute, body keyword, body method, and we are assigning it into a variable. It is not necessary to assign it because if we need so further operation, it is necessary to assign it into a different variable. I hope that you clear. So now there is no way to show that it into a practical purpose, because for that reason we need a form like this. So then only I can show you. But understand this concept, because I want to tell you a theory part, that is body parser. So there is one stuff called a body parser. Why? Because is, so body parser is there. So I am telling you a little bit about it, so we can learn it about it more. So once we are got into the topic middleware, so then only you can understand it better. So now understand only this much. So that is when the request is coming from the client side, means from the front end to the back end, it is carrying the data. When it is in a post method, it is carrying the data which is in the html form, and those data will be in an encoded format. So we need to parse that it into a object, means json like format. So in order to execute it for further operations in a human readable form as well, so we need to parse it. So for that purpose we are using a middleware called the body parser. So only when you are using that it will work. If you are using this simply, it won't work. You have to install the body parser, and you have to use that middleware in a, use that body parser middleware, then only it will work. If you are executing this code simply, it won't work. So in order to work the request.body, you have to install the body parser. So I will explain you really well when we are learning the middleware steps. Okay. So otherwise this code won't work. It will give you the error that the body parser is not installed. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Encryption. So we have learned about how we can pass the data with the request.body by using the post method. There is another one method called the request dot sorry put, put method is also there. This is also a HTTP method. And why we are using this put method is in order to update the data mainly. So update a particular data, we are using this put method. So we can pass the data within the API route. In the route we can pass the data. Within the API route we can pass the data. So you don't get confused with the route. This is called a route. Within this double quotes whatever we have written is called the route endpoint, and the next argument means this function is called a route handler function. Don't be confused that about the what is route and what is route handling function. So something which we are specifying within this double quotes is called a route, and the next argument, this function is called the route handling function. So now we are going to learn about this method called put. So we can specify, so update, so this is the route. So after that we can pass a data like this. Okay, so this is the basic syntax, and I will show you how it will work. Okay, how it will work I will show you. So don't be get confused. Let me take the time to write this code. After that I will explain you all. It will be, it can be understood. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to explain you that. um, So there is one thing called the request dot params. Like that, we have used the request dot body along with the variable name, property name, field name. So like that, we have another one property called a request dot params. This is also an object. Inside that, we have one field called ID. I will tell you how it works. Okay, so like usual, when we are entering this update route in the browser along with some value with this ID, and those ID after this slash mark, after this colon, whatever the variable that I have written, whatever the data that I have written after this will be stored in this variable ID, and we can access that particular variable within this request.params. Okay, so based on a practical implementation, we can understand it. Okay, I'm going to run this code. So after that, you can understand. Okay, the server is running, and I'm going to execute it. Okay, so there is nothing is showing, and so update is the route, and after that we have to pass this ID. So we have to pass this ID. So I'm taking this browser. So in the ID, I'm passing a number. Okay, I'm passing a number, and I okay. Okay, we got this 454 here. Okay, so we got this 454 here. I hope that you got. So what happened? So we can pass a simply we can understand that we can pass the data here from the route. So this is the API route. So after that, I am passing one data, and those data is taking in this variable called ID, and it will be there in the requested params. So requested params is an object. So inside that there is an ID field. Okay. Okay. So in the ID field, the value is 454. So when I am consoling it, the ID, so we will get the 454 as a string or a number. I hope that you got understand this how we can pass this data by request dot params. So did you understand it? So how we get the data? So same as we are using the request dot body by for in order to take the data by the forms. So like that. So we can pass the data by request dot params by passing them into this URL field. I hope that you clear. If you cleared, you can say yes, or else if you are having any kind of doubt regarding this, you can ask in the comment. Explain with another example. Okay. For example, I am giving this passing name, and sorry, and after that, uh, with this colon, we can specify a variable called name. Request comma response. So here I am not consoling it right now. I can send it request dot send, sorry, response dot send. So I'm not sure that it will work or not. Let us try it. Request dot params dot name. Request dot params dot name. I'm sending. Sorry, we can send the request dot params. What will happen next? Okay, if I'm copying this route, I'm pasting it over here. Okay. So here I am gonna pass a name. Suppose my name is there. Okay. So we got that request dot params here. So since I have sent the request dot params here, so or else we can pass another one attribute as well. Age. Age also I am passing like this. Okay, so we got the name Sharad and age 22. The data that we are passing here is getting here in the API in the request dot params. So we can specify if we want to send only the name, you can specify the name here or the age here. So I hope that you clear with this example, right? Are you okay with this example? Got it. Okay. So on the same way, so there is one method called the request dot query is also there. Instead of request dot param, we can also use request dot query. But when we are using the request dot query, the syntax would be something different. The syntax would be something different. So I will tell you what you my camera is off, right? Okay, when we are passing it with the request dot query, so there we are using a question mark instead of that colon and a slash. We are using a question mark. But mainly for a security purpose we can use this name. This is what every time that we are using request dot params, request dot query is something very old, so we are not using much. But instead of this question mark we can instead of this colon we can use a question mark. That is the difference. So suppose when we are using a question mark there, suppose the camera is off. Suppose when we are using a question mark there, you can specify uh, instead of request dot param, request dot query. So that is the only difference within the request dot query and the request dot params. So we can go through the next method. If you have understand this, how we are sending the data through the body and how we are sending the data throughout the sea. So this is an application example. So see this page. So here in this route phase, you see a hexadecimal code here HQJ9FDF856. After this slash, did you see this? If you can see that, you can say yes. In the streamyard.com slash HQJ96DF856. So this number, did you see? Sorry, you are in the YouTube live, right? So I hope that in the share screen that you can see right thing. So so that is what called request dot params. Okay. So that is a real life example of how we can use the request dot params. Okay, if you are using this corresponding variable here, we can access this ID. Okay, so I hope that you cleared it. So can we go through the next topic? So did you cleared about that how we can get the data using the HTML form in the params? Did you clear? So if you cleared, you can say yes. Yes, okay, we can go to the next topic. So, how we can send a static file within a HTML page. Okay. So now, what is saying? What you can see in this UI? A black page, right? So this is not what the website looks like. The website have to be colorful, have to provide some CSS stuffs and all. So this is not what the user want to see. So can we make it a little colorful and so with some HTML tag and all? How can we implement a front end? Okay. So can we do that? So for that, we need another one folder called public. So we have to create one folder called public. Okay, we have to create one folder called public, and inside that we have to specify HTML file index.html. Okay, the public folder is important to use. HTML file have to be written. Okay, so inside the body I am creating hello world. Okay, enough. And we can do something to display this page in the browser. Okay, how we can display this web page in the browser to a particular route. So we can do that, but before that, so we um, have to know about what is middleware. So we can discuss this later. The last session we can learn about middleware. But I have already mentioned that about the middleware when we are learning about the body parser. I mean the requester body. So here also we need a middleware. At the finally we will hello. So if you want something else, we can specify that, because so this is something very simple and we are using it as a beginner stage, right? So that is why I use this hello word. Okay, so we are coming back to this app.js. Okay, I'm reusing this one. So whenever this route by default route, so we are simply sending welcome to contact page. So okay, this is what we are sending. But instead of that, we have to send a file, right? This index.html file have to be sent, right? So for we have to use uh, so there is a method called use. Okay, there is a method called use. Use, we can learn about that in the case of middleware. But inside that, you have to pass express dot static. Express dot static that you have to pass here. You have to pass over here express dot static. So inside express stage, which represent it is going to serve the static file. Static file means the HTML. HTML is a static file, right? The content should be what same to the UI and everything have to be same to each and every user. The dynamic content is something on template engine. We can learn it later. So now you are supposed to use express.static. Inside that you have to specify the folder name. Public. Public is the folder name, right? Public is the folder name. You have to specify that. So instead of send, we have a method called send file. Inside that we can specify the path. Okay, public slash index.html. Okay, okay, this is not the exact path. It is no, it is a simple what not the absolute URL, it is the relative URL. We are supposed to get that from the main directory. So for that, we have a variable called directory name. So this is a global, and by default global variable. We can access it from anywhere. Don't have to declare it again. It's a predefined global variable, and directory name plus we are attaching our folder name with the file that we need to render. Okay, so let us see what is happening. Okay, did you see that? So the HTML page is rendered. Okay, suppose it is an about is already defined. Contact. So instead of this hello world, we can specify welcome to contact page. Uh, provide slash here for what it is. Okay, welcome to contact page. So I hope that you have cleared how we can render a static file to the front end from the backend. Okay, so I hope that you got cleared. Okay, so did you clear about it? So we can send this. So the send file method. So directory name. So in order to currently locate the directory from the C folder, so after that we are attaching our folder and the file have to be displayed. Okay. So I hope that you cleared. So if you cleared about it, you can send yes in the command. If you clear, send yes in the command if you understand. So nobody is replying something. Reply, please. I am waiting for your reply. Yes or no. Yes, understood. Okay, so we can learn about the template engine next. Okay, template engine. Okay, did you heard about template engine? Template engine. Did you heard about template engine? So if you are already aware of the template engine, you can say yes. Or if you don't know about the template engine, you can say no. You can say no if you don't know anything about the template engine. So we can learn it now. No. Okay, so we can learn about template engine. template engine means, so in order to display the data dynamically, we are using this template engine. According to different users, we have to show different data. So we have to know that which user is logged in. Okay, just a minute. So we have to show so that which user is logged in. Suppose I am the one who is logged in, so I have to show that yes, welcome Sharat. If somebody else is logged in, I have to specify welcome his or her name. Okay, the UI should be same, but the content is have to be different, right? Programmatically, the content have to be different. So for that particular purpose, we are using the template engine. Okay, we are using the template engine. So for that reason, the template engine that we are using now is the EJS. EJS is the template engine that we are using now, and there is a lot of EJs, sorry, template engine is there like HPS, but EJS is something simple, so we get to know about it. But if you are using React or Angular, Next.js, these kind of front-end framework, you don't need to use any kind of EJS. Suppose when you are using only the HTML file, normal HTML, normal CSS, normal by default normal HTML, if you are using it, so you are supposed to use EJS. Suppose when we are using a front-end framework like React or Angular, you are not supposed to use um, what EJS. I mean the template engine. Okay, so we are supposed to install a template engine. So we can install EJS. So same command npm install EJS as we have installed what they express. Okay. And we have to specify another one folder called view. So this in order to render the elements dynamically, we have to create another one folder called view. So inside that we have to specify what an EJS file. So I'm giving the name as welcome.ejs. Okay, welcome.ejs. This is the EJS file that I have mentioned EJS. Okay, so I have to tell the backend that I am using EJS as the view engine because there is a lot of other view engine is there. I have to specify that we will learn React JS later. Okay, we will learn React JS later, but in order to show it now, simply I am using it. No issues. You can use the React JS, but in order to for a proper understanding, we are using it. No issues. So app dot set method is there, so inside that you can specify view engine and the next has the EJS. Okay, ENJIN view engine EJS. EJS have to be in a double quotes. Okay, okay, but instead of contact page, we can render that EJS file, right? So here we can specify welcome instead of contact. So there is one method called render. Inside that method, we can specify the EJS file, welcome.ejs file. So after that, we can pass a particular name over here, specifying a name. Its value as this is the data that we are passing in this EJS file, and in the EJS file, we can specify it by. So there is a syntax welcome, and okay, inside that we can specify the variable name. So this is a syntax in order to display a particular value, this tag symbol and that a percentage symbol. Okay. So now we can execute this. What will happen if there is any kind of error or something? I'm not sure. Okay, there is some issues within this. Maybe the space. I'm not sure. Let me check it out. If this problem is not fixing out, uh, I don't know what happened. So we need to specify something in the configuration file, I think, because this is what we have used early before coming that React JS and Angular, this kind of framework. Early time that we are using this kind of view engine. So nowadays everybody is using these. So my battery is off. Just a minute, let me charge it. So just a minute, I will take my charger and come back. Okay, just a minute, a few minutes. Okay, so this kind of EJS is what we have using early before coming that React or Angular. So nowadays I am also using the React and Angular, so that is why I forgot something. But the syntax is something similar, but there is some issues within the configuration or something. So that may be causing these kind of issues. So we don't want we don't have to bother it about it because we are not using it. We are using it past in order to get a mm, basic idea about it. So that is why I have shared you, but there is a mistake. So I have to go through the code again. I'm not want to waste the time. We can go to the next topic. Okay, so we can learn about what middleware. So can we learn about middleware? So if you are ready to learn middleware, say yes. Say yes if you can, if you are able to, if you are okay to learn middleware. So where are you guys? Say yes if you okay to learn middleware. Yes. I'm sorry for this issue. I hope that it will work, but unfortunately it is not working. So maybe because of this version or something. So please plug the charger, okay? Okay, I plug the charger. Okay, we can learn about middleware. So at the time we can learn about this use method. Okay. So middleware means, as per the name specifies, something in the middle. Something in the middle is called middleware. Okay. On the either two side there would be someone, right? Okay. So that are the request and the response. So with in between the request and the response, there is someone called middleware. So what that guy is doing is, so when the client is sending a request to the backend, so whenever a request is coming from the front end to the backend, so before reaching to the server, the middleware is there in the middle, and that middleware is going to authenticate that this request is a good or bad, or if it contain any kind of data, do I want to validate. So only when it pass through this middleware, the condition that we are specifying within the middleware got passed, there is no any kind of issues or error, then only it will pass it to the next stage, that means the response. So did you got the basic idea of what the middleware is doing? In between the request and the response, a middleware should be there. The middleware is someone going to check that whether the request have to be sent to the backend server or not. If the middleware is not allowing that request to reach the backend, the request won't reach the backend. We won't get the response. We will get the response from the middleware only. So we will not get the correct response from the backend. The middleware is going to give us the response. So did you got the basic understanding of the middleware? If yes, we can go through the practical purpose of the middleware. Okay. Say yes if you understand about middleware. So then we can go through the practical purpose. So okay. Okay, then we can go through the middleware. Okay. So the middleware is something executed. Middleware is simply a function. Okay, middleware is simply a function. That function will get executed between request and a response. Suppose we want to execute a middleware in each and every request passing from the front end to the back end, then we can use a method called use. Okay, we can use a method called use. So within the app, so it have to be at the very top, right? They have to be at the very top. That is very essential. App.use. So we can specify a method here. Say middleware request comma response. So there is another one. So another one method we are learning is the next. So what is the purpose of next? So next is going to decide when we are calling the next function. Next is actually a function, not a variable. So when we are calling this next function, it will trigger that the it is okay. The middleware is the request is okay. Then we can go access this request to the server. Okay, so I will show you that, and I am console logging. So I'm copying the request, and there is one thing called the request dot method. We can see that, and specifying request dot method. So there is one method is there, request dot method. Sorry. Request for request dot URL. Okay. Request is okay means request is okay. Request is okay means, so what do you mean by that? Okay. So I didn't get you. So what is your doubt? Avadi Arya. So we can execute it. So after that we can call this next method. Okay. So this method is calling this API. Sorry, this middleware is calling with whatever the request that we are sending to the server. Okay. What do you mean by what do you have explained? Repeat it. Okay. So what I have repeated. So this is a request. Okay, about is a request. So suppose the if the request contain the request URL contain this above, this route handler have to be get executed. So this if suppose this is in the in the URL, this have to be executed. This have to be executed. Okay. So in each and every request, this middleware will get executed commonly. So once the output is seen, you will get an idea. Okay. And define address, okay, address already in use. Just delete it. Okay. Suppose I am going through with this about. Okay, hi is displayed. So maybe this is the error occurring, right? As you can see, get request for welcome. Did you see that? So that is occurring from this middleware. Request method is get. Okay, get is the request method and request for request.url. So whatever in the URL is the welcome. So that console. Suppose I am going with another one uh, sample. Okay, in the sample, what I have console is get request for sample. If I am going through welcome, welcome user is displayed, and here also we get a request for welcome. So whatever request we are sending to the server, for each and every case this middleware will get executed. Okay, so first of all, it will go first the request sending to the server. Okay, are you guys listening? The request is sending to the server. The request is sending to the server. So, since we have used a middleware here, first of all, it will go to the middleware. So, not directly to the server. So, in the all the past other case, the request is directly sending to the server. So, instead, we have used this middleware. So, it will not directly go to the server. Instead, there will be a middleware and it will go to the middleware, and the middleware consoled this. After that it is calling the next method. Next method means it is going to the response. Okay, it is going to the server. So now you will not get understand about this next method clearly. We can go through another one example, then you will get to know this next method very clearly. So now you got understood that. So when we are using this app.use, this middleware will get executed to each and every request. So only after consoling this, so then only it is going next. Okay, so next means what? This URL is the next. This URL, this is going to be executed as next. Okay, I will show you with a different example, then only you will get understand. So 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 we can specify two different messages, so whether the user is authenticated or not. Suppose if we have a login to a website, uh, we will get a login, is a sign up login form. Sorry, we can direct to the home page. Otherwise we can only see a login page, right? In a normal website, suppose I have already logged in, so I can redirect to a home page. Suppose I am not a user, not a logged in, I will not get access to the home page. A login page have to be shown, right? So okay, to authenticate this, a middleware should be there. So middleware is going to check that whether that user is already logged in or not. Suppose a user is already logged in, so they can see a home page there. Suppose the middleware is when the middleware is checking that particular request showing that the user is not logged in, the middleware is will send to the server that, so have to show only the login page, not have to show them the home page because the user is not logged in. Okay, so like that purpose we can use a middleware, or else we can do one thing, that the blocking, that in the social media we can block a particular user by the admin or by the user. Suppose a user is blocked, the user is not allowed to access anything, the user is not allowed to do anything with that particular app, the user is blocked, right? So whenever each and every request from the client to the server, the middleware should be there in order to check that the user is blocked or not. Suppose the user is blocked, the user need to show that the message that yes, you are blocked, you are not allowed to access this particular area, you are blocked by the admin, or you are blocked by someone else. A middleware should be there, and suppose the user is not blocked, then only they can request to the server. Okay, so that is why we are using this middleware. So I'm creating a middleware called authenticate. So it is mainly similar to a function. Okay, see, it is mainly similar to a function. So I'm creating a function called authenticate. So it's a middleware function, not a normal function. So for the request, comma response, comma next. Suppose I am assuming that the request is authenticated. Suppose the authenticate is I am manually assigning true that I'm assuming that the user is authenticated. So if the user is authenticated, if the user is authenticated, authenticate is true. So then we can go next. Otherwise, we have to show them the message that response dot send, sorry, please login again. Okay, so this is the middleware. I am passing this middleware here. Okay, so you have to pass this middleware over here. So whenever the welcome route is calling, so whenever this welcome route is executing, so this middleware will get executed first. If the middleware, when the control is going through this middleware function, it will check that authenticate is true or not. Yes, authenticate is true. So what is going to execute next function is calling. So what will be the next function? Yes, this function is going to be the next function. Otherwise, sorry, please logging again. This message have to be sent. Okay, we can execute this one. Okay, so welcome user get executed. Suppose I am telling that the user is not authenticated, is false. Sorry, please log in again. Did you got that? So what is the use of this middleware and how it work? Suppose this condition is going to be true, the next method is going to execute. Next method specify that this is okay. Is it fine? Did you understood what is a middleware? If you understood the middleware, then say yes. It's really good. Okay, so there is something else in the middleware. We can pass as just like a chain. A chain of middleware is also there. So I can also specify another one middleware called is block. Is block. Okay. Blocked equal to true. Uh, then if block down till res dot send you are blocked, else they can go to the next. Okay, so I'm calling a middle here. In this route we have two middleware. One middleware is responsible to check that the user is authenticated or not. If the user is authenticated, we set that to go to the next method. Okay, go to the next method. So here the next method should be what? is blocked. Is blocked is the next method. Okay, next will be the is blocked, and is block will check it is blocked or not. If it is not blocked, then we can go to the next method. That next method is this one. So we can check it. Yes, you are blocked because is blocked is true, right? So suppose I am checking chasing it to false. Okay, welcome user is get executed. So did you got the concept clearly? So what is the middleware? Is that fine? So I have explained you with the two different methods. This is a good practice to use middleware in every route. Okay, got it. Okay, did you heard about session and cookies? So do you know what is session and a cookie? So if you know about session and cookie, you can say yes or no. With the React, what will be the used for middleware? Okay. Uh, in the React, what would be used for middleware? Mm, So this is something that we are using in the backend middleware. In the React also we have a middleware, but I am a person who is working on Angular. I don't know about the React because in Angular we have a guard. Guard is there. Guard concept is there. So active guard is there. So that is the guard is something going to act as a middleware in Angular. In React also there may be something like this. I'm not aware of the particular name that we are using in the React because I'm working on Angular. From this beginning itself, I'm working on Angular. So Angular is something better than React. So that is why I choose that. So there is something called a guard that is acting as a middleware there. The React also there, maybe I'm not sure. So when you are learning about React, you will learn about it. It's okay. Okay, my question is: did you heard about cookies or session? This kind of thing, cookies session and say yes if you know heard about this session and cookies. Sorry, say yes if you know and say no if you don't know. So I'm waiting for your reply. don't know, sir. Okay, so we can learn about what is cookie and session. So since you are browsing something, some website, so you have seen that accept cookies or not accept cookies, these kinds of message that you have seen. And so why we need this kind of cookies and session? Because we are sending a request from the front end to the back end, and all those requests is H cookies is generated during a website is used to correct the data that is the first user coming here. Okay, okay, right. Okay, and what I have said is okay. The request that we are sending from the front end to the back end. So all these requests are HTTP. HTTP request is sending. So that is a stateless protocol because every other request is independent. Okay. So once a request has sent, okay, once a request has sent, so suppose the same API route is sending again, but both are different. For an example, if you are staying in an apartment, the security guard will be there in the gate. So you are asked by the security to prove yourself in order to get inside. Okay, once you give the ID proof and you get inside, and only next day you are supposed to give them the ID proof again because the security forgot that you are someone who is staying in this apartment, and every time you are getting there you have to authenticate by yourself regularly because the security is forgetting us. Okay, right. So that is some problem of the HTTP request also. So whenever a request is sending to the server, suppose the same request is sending it again in some other day, it will consider it as a different request. So for that particular reason, so we have to log in into our website again and again. So you have logged into your Instagram account once. So on the next day when you are opening your Instagram account, the login page is opened again because the Instagram server don't aware that you are someone who is already logged in. So it is taking that request as a new one since the request is same which has already taken. Okay. So for that particular reason, so we need to authenticate. So we have to store the data of that particular user, whether the user is logged in or not. For that purpose, we are using this session as well as the request. Okay. So there is something called. So did he got a basic idea of what is session and a cookie? It's a basic idea about I'm not going into the deep. It's a basic idea about what is session and what is cookie. So I didn't mention about the cookie, right? No, I have mentioned you about the session. Okay. So when a request is sending to the server, so we are sending a session ID along with the request. Okay, along with this request, we are sending a session ID, and that session ID is storing in the server. And when the response is coming, the server is sending that session ID with this response, and that is storing in the browser. That session ID is storing in the browser in the case of cookie. Okay, in the cookie as a cookie, the session ID is storing in the browser. So whenever the request is sending to the server again and again, in each and every request, the same session, the cookie is passed to the server. The server will check that this session ID in the cookie is same as the session ID that is already stored in the server. So suppose it is same, yes, the user is already authenticated. Then we can go to the home page. We don't have to show the login page. Okay, so this is the basic working of how the session and the cookie work. Basic understanding. Did you got the concept well, or else do I want to repeat it? Say it in the comment. If you want me to repeat it again, I'm okay to repeat because the session and cookies is something very important, especially in your interviews and all. Yes, you got the concept. I hope that like Avadi Arya, everybody got the concept of the session and the cookies. It's actually simple, right? But so we can learn about so how we can programmatically implement the session and the cookies, how we can access the session data, how we can store the data into the session, how we can access the cookies programmatically we can learn. So we have only learned the theoretical concept, how the request is sent to the server, uh, and how the session ID is coming back to the client side, how it is storing in the browser, and within the cookies, it is sending back to the server in each and every request. I have already mentioned you that in each and every request, the request have to contain a cookie to this, have to send to the server, right? So, so what method can be used for this? Yes, the stuff that I have, the topic that I have already taught you, that the middleware. So middleware is something that is will get executed in each and every request. In each and every request, the middleware will get executed. Okay. So in each and every request, we have to attach the cookie data that we have stored in our browser along with the request. For that purpose, we have to create a middleware and we have to ask the middleware that in each and every request attach the cookie data in order to send that data to the server. Okay. So for that purpose we don't have to write any kind of code. There is a built-in method called cookie parser. That is a built-in method, we can simply use it. So we don't want to write any kind of code you regarding it. So we have to install it, I think, cookie parser. Okay, we can simply use this cookie parser. So in order to attach the cookie data in each and every request. So like that, we have to define a session also. So for that also we need a middleware called session express session. So inside we need to pass some data. That is first one is secret. So I didn't install the express session, so that is why the auto suggestion is not coming. Suppose when you are installing npm install express session, that you need to install before writing this code, and also you have to import it as well. Okay, in this secret, you can pass a secret key, any key. So this is something we can use to pass the session ID to the server. Any string that you can add, no issues. Even though you can, your name can also be added, no issues. And there is one thing called a resave. Resave, I'm setting it to false, and also it needs save uninitialized. So I will tell you what it is. So I will tell you what are all these. and also the other one is cookie, and that is an object have to pass the secure false. Okay, I will explain you all these steps because the cookie parts that I have already mentioned you that is a middleware that is attached to the request object, that I have already mentioned you. And in this session, there is a object that we have passed, and the first key is the secret. So why we are using this is that is a string that we are using to sign the session ID cookie. That ensuring that the integrity of the session data. It is important to keep it as a secret, so we can use an .env file here. Inside that .env file, we can specify that. So that is something a little bit advanced. So now you can specify the secret ID here itself. So when you are building a project, don't have to display it here. It have to be in a secure way. Okay. So I mean you have to create an env file. Inside that env file, you can specify this variable, import it here, and use it here. That's so simple. And the next one is resave. This secret ID will be useful in order to create a session ID. Simple, and the resave is something which is you have to think a little bit. So why we are using this resave is we can either add the value like false and true. Suppose we are using false, it is recommended to use false because why we are using that resave property, because the session is not saved back to the session store if it is had been modified during the request. That means I have sent a request. So I have sent a request, and that cookie data is not updating. Session ID is also same. The session ID is entirely same. We don't need to. We have don't made any kind of change there. So the session is stored in the first request. The session is stored in the server. Again, we are requesting another one request. So in this second request, the session ID is not actually changed. No data is changed. But even though we have sent that a request again, but at that time, do I want to save it again in the store in the storage? That do I want to save it again? No, we don't want to save it again. The request in which there is no any kind of change, only when there is change, then only we can resave it. Okay, so that is how why we are saying it as false. We don't want to save that session ID if that it doesn't contain any kind of change. We don't want to save it again. So that is why we are using this property resave. And the another one is save uninitialized, and that is also taken as sorry, we can take it as true because so why, because the true is by the default why we are using it. So we are forces a session that is uninitialized. Uninitialized means it is a new but without any kind of data. That means the first request. So we can consider it as a first request. It is a new one without any kind of data, and that have to be stored, right? That have to be saved and stored. So in many cases, it is useful for setting up a session before knowing it is to be used. So it have to be net true. And the next one is the cookie. So the cookie is an object field. So inside that there is a field called secure. It is termed as false. So why, because we are keeping it as say false. There is two type of request is there. One is HTTP and the other one is HTTPS. So when we are taking this secure as a true, it will work only when the request is HTTPS. HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol secure. So what is the specialty of HTTPS is the data that we are passing will be encrypted. So that is for the security purpose we are encrypting it. So there will be a lock symbol in the URL in the that you can see here as well. In each and every URL, there will be a icon of lock, which means it is using HTTPS. The data that we are passing, everything will be encrypted. SSL or TSL protocol is there for encrypting and all. And if we are checking this to changing it to true, it will only work if the request is HTTP yes. If it is false, even though the request is HTTP or even HTTP yes, it will work. To install this session, npm install express hyphen session. This is the command that you have to write. Npm install install or I express hyphen session. And also you have to install the cookie parser as well. Cookie parser also have to be installed. Okay, and also have to not expression. Okay, so these are the stuff that you need to install: cookie parser and express session, and you have to use it here, cookie parser and the session. So I hope that you cleared. Did you understand the concept of the session? Receive, repeat, secret and receive. Please repeat. Okay. So resave is nothing but have to save the session again or not. Simply we can say that resave, because we are not giving a single request to the server. We are supposed to give a multiple request. So maybe this second request or the third request that we are simply sending a request with the same data that is already stored in the session. Okay, the data, the session ID or the necessary data that doesn't contain any kind of change. So we are calling that particular, we are requesting it again with the same data. So the same data is coming to the server. So don't we need to save it again? No, we don't want to save that same data again. So that is why we set the resave to false. If we are telling the server the resave it true, it will again take that remove that data that is already so session ID that is already stored, and it will store that same session ID again. So that will cause some performance issues. So that is why we set it to false. But the secret means a secret key. So you can type anything, or my secret key or something that that this is responsible to create a session ID. Okay, so that can be encrypted or decrypted by this secret. So for that only purpose we are using this secret. This is responsible for creating a session ID, so something a unique ID. Okay, so now we have just created the session and the cookie. Okay, so we don't have got into this application. So this is mainly happening. So when we are login, okay, thank you. And login. Suppose I am creating a request called login. So this is have to be login and suppose that a user have login. So whenever a user is login, so after sign up, we are supposed to log in into a website, right? So I have logged into my social media account. So at that time, in order to check that this user is login, we have to assign a particular value within the session. Okay, I will show you with the help of an example. So, so we can access the session by request dot session. We can access this dot. I am creating a variable called username. It's a simple variable which that variable in a session storage, and I am assigning that a variable to a value Sharon, my name. You can add any name, maybe from the request dot body dynamically, or request dot params, or request dot query. So this is something make is dynamic. So I'm passing a hard coded value that is my name Sharad. So this will get stored. So whenever the user is login, and so for that we can say that send you are logged in. Okay, and also after that we have to show the user the profile. Okay, you have to show the user the profile. Okay, so in order to show the user the profile, we have to check that the user is uh, login or not. Okay, if the user is login, there will be a value of in the username variable of the session. We have to check that whether the username contain a value. A request dot session dot username. If the value exists, we can request dot send. So welcome back, and after that we can specify the name request dot session dot username. Else, if it is not contain any kind of value within the session, so we can send a message that please log in first. Sorry. I hope that you got the concept of session well. Fine. So whenever the user is login, so at that time we have created a particular session for this user. Under this session, we are creating a variable called username. We are assigning a particular value to this username. Okay. So this will happen only when the user login. And we are checking that the username contain the value. Okay. If the session contains this value, then we can send this message. If it is not, we can send please login first message. Okay. Do you understand the concept of session? Cookie. So did you understand this code? Say yes in the command or no if you want to repeat it again. Yes. I hope that you have understand the things that we have learned today. So I mean the how we can get the data from the form tag. So how we will in the form tag I didn't show you the result. I have explained you only. To get the result we actually need a form. Maybe in the next section we can do that stuff, or we can go to the some advanced topic. Mm, and we have learned middleware and session and the cookie. So these are the things that we have learned today. So I hope that you have understood the concept really well. So if you understand all the things that I have teach you today, if yes, say in the comment understood. Say understood if you go to know something that you are not aware of. You got something new knowledge. If yes, you can say understood. So I'm waiting for your reply. Say understood or not understood. So if you're having any kind of doubt, you can also ask that as well in the chat. So I'm okay and I'm happy to reply it. Any kind of doubt, understood. I learned all this in the college, but today I learned it practically. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. So anybody else? Avadi Ara is replying only. I don't know what the others are listening or not. So it is going to hit 9. So I mean, it's only a 1 minute and some second is there to end this meeting. It's going to hit the 2 hours. So if you are having any kind of doubt, you can chat in the chat box. Other than the topics that we have discussed, that also you can ask, no issues. So you are having any kind of doubt other than this topic that we have discussed, that also you can ask.
Okay, thank you, sir, and thank you everyone for today's session. Let's end up.